Have you ever done what you thought was the right thing, only to look around and wonder why the universe did not reward you with something obvious and shiny? Have you ever received something you once begged for, only to notice that the excitement faded fast and the old restlessness quietly returned? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to walk straight into a quiet truth that can change the way you live your entire life. Many people talk about karma like it is a vending machine. Put in good deeds, get out a promotion. Put in generosity, get out a new car. Put in patience, get out perfect relationships and perfect timing. And when the visible reward does not arrive, the heart begins to doubt, the mind begins to bargain, and the spirit begins to feel cheated. But ancient Buddhist wisdom points to something far more subtle, far more reliable, and far more liberating. The deepest blessings do not always show up as objects. They show up as inner shifts. They show up as the mind becoming less reactive. They show up as the heart becoming more compassionate. They show up as the ego loosening its grip. They show up as inner freedom, which is the kind of wealth that does not vanish when circumstances change. So today, we are going to unmask the myth of material blessings. We are going to talk about why we are programmed to expect external rewards for good karma. We are going to explore why even the biggest material gain can leave a void. Then we are going to learn how to identify the true signals of karmic unfolding, the internal caloradians that quietly mean your life is transforming. We will also talk about practices to cultivate a receptive inner landscape, so these shifts can deepen and stabilize. And we will end with a way to live with profound inner wealth, the kind that brings lasting peace and authentic joy. Let us begin by naming the myth, because you cannot release what you refuse to see. Most of us were taught, directly or indirectly, that being good should produce visible rewards. We were praised when we performed, when we achieved, when we pleased. We learned that goodness and approval were connected. We learned that effort should produce a clear payoff. We learned to measure value through outcomes that can be displayed. Titles, money, likes, compliments, public recognition. Even spiritual progress is sometimes measured the same way, as if the universe is handing out trophies. So when we hear the word karma, the mind naturally reaches for that familiar pattern. The mind says, if I do good, I should get good. And if I suffer, someone must be keeping score. But early Buddhist teachings do not present karma as divine reward or punishment. Karma is cause and effect rooted in intention. And the most immediate effects of intention are not always external. They are internal. They are the shaping of the mind, the training of the heart, the formation of habits, the creation of a nervous system that either tightens in fear or relaxes in trust. Here is why the material reward myth is so seductive. Material changes are easy to point at. A new car is obvious. A promotion is obvious. A relationship status is obvious. A house is obvious. A number in a bank account is obvious. And because it is obvious, we can tell a simple story. I did something good, therefore I deserve this. Or, I did something bad, therefore I lost that. But the mind loves simple stories because simple stories feel controllable. If you believe life is a direct vending machine, you can bargain with it. You can try to control it. You can try to guarantee your safety by being good in the right way. And then life humbles us, because reality is more complex. Many conditions shape our outcomes. Other people have agency. Social systems exist. Timing changes. Health changes. Opportunity rises and falls. Even if you live ethically, you can still face loss. Even if you practice generosity, you can still face disappointment. Even if you meditate, you can still have hard days. So if you cling to the myth of visible rewards, you end up suffering twice. First, you suffer the natural pain of life. Then you suffer the added pain of feeling betrayed by the universe. This is why Buddhism talks so much about attachment. Attachment is not love. Attachment is the mind insisting that life must match a specific script for you to be okay. When the mind clings to the script, It becomes anxious and rigid. And when the script breaks, the mind collapses into resentment. Now let us talk about the inherent dissatisfaction of fleeting material gains. You already know this, but you may not have named it clearly. Think about something you wanted badly in the past. Maybe it was a job, a relationship, a new phone, a trip, a certain body, a certain lifestyle. When you did not have it, the mind romanticized it. The mind said, if I get that, I will finally relax. If I get that, I will finally feel secure. If I get that, I will finally feel worthy. Then you got it, and for a moment, there was relief, there was joy, there was excitement. But soon the baseline returned. The mind adapted, the novelty faded, and then the next desire appeared. The mind said, okay, now we need the next thing. This is not because you are ungrateful. It is because the mind is conditioned. Buddhism calls this thirst, the constant craving that keeps the heart restless. And this is why material gains, while they can improve comfort, often cannot provide lasting contentment. Because contentment is not an object. Contentment is an inner state. This does not mean you should reject material life or pretend money does not matter. It means you stop expecting material things to do the job of inner wisdom. Now we arrive at the challenge that many people do not want to face. True blessings are not always tangible. And sometimes, true blessings do not feel like blessings at first. Sometimes the blessing is that you did not get what you wanted, because what you wanted would have deepened your attachment. Sometimes the blessing is that a door closed, because that door would have led you into harm. Sometimes the blessing is that you were forced to slow down, because speed was breaking your spirit. Sometimes the blessing is that you experienced discomfort, because discomfort woke you up. If you have lived long enough, you have probably had at least one experience where you later realized a disappointment protected you. At the time it felt like loss. Later it revealed itself as guidance. In Buddhist language, this is wisdom unfolding through impermanence. The mind learns not to cling. The heart learns to trust a deeper rhythm. And this is where we begin shifting from the myth of material blessings to the subtle art of inner calibration. Inner calibration means you start measuring your life by the quality of your mind and heart, rather than by the quantity of your possessions. It means you begin to notice the small shifts that indicate real spiritual progress. And once you begin noticing these shifts, you discover that blessings are unfolding constantly, not as fireworks, but as quiet transformations. Let us explore the first and most powerful form of inner calibration: emotional resonance. Have you noticed that certain things that used to trigger you do not trigger you as much anymore? Have you noticed that your anger cools faster? Have you noticed that your anxiety no longer controls your whole day? Have you noticed that you can experience sadness without collapsing into despair? Have you noticed that you can feel disappointment and still remain kind? These are not small. These are major karmic shifts. Because karma is not only about events. Karma is about the patterns of mind that shape your experience of events. If you are less angry than you used to be, that means you have less inner suffering. It means your nervous system is calmer. It means your relationships are safer. It means you are creating less harm. It means you are planting seeds of peace. That is a blessing. If you are more peaceful than you used to be, even slightly, that means you are closer to freedom. Peace is not passive. Peace is power. Peace is the ability to stay present without being dragged around by craving and aversion. Peace is the fruit of practice. Now here is a deeper layer. Sometimes the shift is not that you never feel anger. Sometimes the shift is that you notice anger sooner. You catch it before it becomes speech. You catch it before it becomes action. You catch it before it becomes a karmic chain that creates regret. That moment of catching is a blessing. It is awareness awakening. It is wisdom entering the mind. It is the gap where freedom lies. The second inner calibration is perspective pivots. A perspective pivot is when you stop seeing challenges as punishment and start seeing them as opportunities for growth. Not in a naive way. Not in a way that denies pain. but in a way that recognizes meaning. You lose something and you ask, what is this teaching me about attachment? You face conflict and you ask, what is this teaching me about my communication, my boundaries, my patience? You face uncertainty and you ask, what is this teaching me about trust and impermanence? This pivot is not forced positivity. It is wisdom. It is the mind learning to cooperate with reality instead of fighting it. In Buddhism, suffering often intensifies when we argue with what is. We insist that reality should be different. We cling to how it should be. Suchness is the practice of accepting what is, not as resignation, but as clarity. When you accept what is, you stop wasting energy in denial. That energy becomes available for skillful action. That is a blessing. The third inner calibration is the diminishing need for external validation. This is one of the clearest signs of karmic unfolding, and it is one of the hardest to cultivate, because our culture is built on validation. We are trained to seek it. We are trained to measure ourselves by it. We are trained to fear its absence. But as you practice mindfulness and compassion, something shifts. You begin to feel contentment inside that is not dependent on applause. You still appreciate support. You still enjoy recognition. But you no longer collapse without it. You start doing the right thing because it is right, not because it will be praised. You start creating because you love creating, not because you need everyone to approve. You start living your values because they align with your conscience, not because they impress anyone. That is inner freedom. That is deep wealth. That is a blessing. Now let us move into what I call signals of true karmic unfolding. These are not mystical signs. They are changes you can actually feel in daily life. One signal is increased empathy and compassion toward others, even those who challenge you. This does not mean you become a doormat. It does not mean you tolerate harm. It means you start seeing the suffering under behavior. You start understanding that most people act from pain, fear, and conditioning. You start responding with less hatred and more clarity. When someone snaps at you and you can see they are overwhelmed, rather than immediately taking it personally, that is a blessing. It reduces conflict. It reduces stress. It protects your heart. When someone disappoints you, and you can still hold compassion while also setting boundaries, that is a blessing. It is maturity. It is wisdom. It is karmic purification. Another signal is a growing sense of inner freedom and detachment from outcomes. This is non-attachment, not indifference. Non-attachment. Non-attachment means you can act wholeheartedly without gripping the result. You can work hard without being consumed by fear. You can love without trying to control. You can pursue goals without making your self-worth dependent on success. This inner freedom changes everything. It changes how you show up at work. It changes how you show up in relationships. It changes how you handle uncertainty. It changes how you experience loss. It changes how you experience joy, because joy becomes less anxious. When you are attached, even joy contains fear. Fear of losing it. Fear of it ending. Fear of it not being enough. When you are less attached, joy becomes simpler. It becomes present. It becomes clean. Another signal is what people sometimes call effortless flow. This can be misunderstood. People think flow means everything becomes easy. But true flow is not the absence of effort. It is the absence of forced struggle. When your mind is calmer, you make better choices. When you make better choices, you create better condition. When you create better condition, opportunities align more naturally. You meet people at the right time. You notice openings you used to miss. You respond with patience instead of panic. You speak with clarity instead of defensiveness. From the outside, it may look like luck. From the inside, it is karma unfolding through wisdom. Let me bring this down into a story, because stories reveal how subtle these blessings can be. I want you to imagine someone I will call Daniel. Daniel was ambitious. He worked hard, He did everything he was told would create success. He chased promotions. He networked. He hustled. He pushed. And he did receive rewards. He got raises. He got recognition. He upgraded his life. But inside, he was tired. He felt like he was always running. Even on vacation, his mind was planning. Even when he achieved a goal, his mind was already anxious about maintaining it. Then he went through something that did not feel like a blessing. He burned out. His body forced him to stop. He developed insomnia. His mood became fragile. His relationships suffered. At first he felt ashamed. He felt like he failed. He felt like life punished him. But in the quiet space of burnout, he began to notice something he had avoided for years. His mind was never at rest. His happiness depended on outcomes. His worth depended on performance. His entire life was built on external validation. So he started practicing mindfulness. Not because he wanted enlightenment, but because he wanted to survive. He started with 5 minutes a day. Sitting, breathing, noticing thoughts, returning. At first it felt useless. His mind was loud. He felt restless. He felt impatient. But he continued. And slowly, he began to notice inner shifts. He was less reactive when people criticized him. He did not spiral as much. He was more honest about his limits. He said no more often. He stopped checking his phone compulsively. He could sit through discomfort. He began to feel moments of peace that were not tied to winning. And then something surprising happened. His work improved, not because he pushed harder, but because he focused better. His decisions became clearer. His communication became calmer. People trusted him more. Opportunities began to align. Not because the universe owed him, but because he was no longer sabotaging himself with frantic energy. His presence changed the field around him. That is how inner blessings ripple outward. This is the ripple effect. When your inner world shifts, your outer world begins to reflect that shift, often in subtle but powerful ways. Now let us talk about cultivating a receptive inner landscape. Because inner blessings unfold more easily when you create the right conditions. The first practice is mindfulness. Mindfulness is like tuning an instrument. Your mind is the instrument. Your attention is the tuning. When attention is scattered, the mind is noisy and reactive. When attention is trained, the mind becomes clear and steady. A simple way to practice mindfulness is to return to the body. The body is always in the present. The mind is often in the past or future. When you feel your breath, your feet, your hands, you anchor. This anchoring is not just calm. It is wisdom. Because many karmic reactions begin as bodily sensations. A tight chest, a hot face, a clenched jaw, a restless urge. When you notice early, you can choose differently. When you notice late, the pattern already owns you. So mindfulness becomes your internal barometer. It tells you when you are drifting into old karma. It tells you when you are clinging. It tells you when you are resisting. And it gives you a chance to return. The second practice is journaling. Journaling is often misunderstood as a place to vent. It can be that, but it can also be a mirror of subtle shifts. If you track your thought patterns and emotional states, you begin to notice change that you would otherwise miss. You begin to notice, I recovered faster today. I forgave sooner. I was kinder to myself. I asked for help. I did not take it personally. I did not chase approval. I rested without guilt. These are blessings, and journaling helps you see them, which strengthens them. There is a simple way to journal for inner blessings. At the end of the day, write about one moment when you responded with more wisdom than before. It can be tiny. You paused before reacting. You spoke gently instead of sharply. You listened longer. You let go of a grudge. You accepted a situation you could not control. You noticed beauty. You felt gratitude. You chose compassion. This practice trains your mind to recognize inner wealth. And what you recognize, you grow. The third practice is letting go of attachment to specific outcomes. This is the hardest practice because it asks the ego to relax. The ego wants control. The ego wants certainty. The ego wants guarantees. The ego wants to know that goodness will be rewarded in the exact form it prefers. But wisdom says, your job is to plant skillful seeds. Your job is to act with integrity. Your job is to practice compassion. The results will unfold through many conditions. You can influence them, but you cannot control all of them. When you let go of outcome attachment, you stop bargaining with life. You stop performing goodness for reward. You start living goodness as a path. This shift is profound, because when you live goodness as a path, you become internally aligned. And internal alignment is peace. Now, I want to address a common fear. If I stop focusing on outcomes, will I become unmotivated? Will I stop achieving? Will I stop improving my life? No. Non-attachment is not laziness. It is clean effort. Clean effort means you work with dedication, but without desperation. You care, but you do not cling. You try, but you do not panic. You build, but you do not base your worth on the building. This kind of effort is often more effective than frantic striving, because it is stable. It is consistent. It is clear. Now let us move into living the life of profound inner wealth. What is inner wealth? Inner wealth is the ability to experience life with less suffering and more clarity. It is the ability to face change without collapsing. It is the ability to love without controlling. It is the ability to act ethically without needing applause. It is the ability to rest in your own presence. Inner wealth manifests as lasting peace and authentic joy. Peace does not mean nothing goes wrong. Peace means your mind does not turn every problem into a personal catastrophe. Peace means you can respond rather than react. Peace means you can remain anchored even when the world is unstable. Authentic joy does not mean constant happiness. Joy means the ability to appreciate what is here. It means the ability to receive the simple gifts of life. A meal, a quiet moment, a kind word, a breath, a sunrise, a laugh, a feeling of being alive. This joy is not dependent on perfect conditions. It is born from awareness. Now, the ripple effect again. When you live with inner wealth, you influence your external world. Your calm presence makes others feel safe. Your compassion reduces conflict. Your clarity improves your decision. Your non-attachment makes you resilient. Your patience improves your relationships. Your integrity creates trust. Trust opens doors. Doors change your life. From the outside, it can look like blessings arriving. And they are. But they are not random gifts. They are the natural fruit of a mind that is becoming wise. Now I want to bring in a deeper Buddhist insight that helps you recognize inner shifts even more clearly. The concept of dependent arising. Dependent arising means everything arises due to causes and condition. This includes your moods, your habits, your suffering, your peace. If peace arises in you more often than before, it is because conditions changed. Maybe you slept better. Maybe you practiced mindfulness. Maybe you stopped feeding resentment. Maybe you spent time with wiser people. Maybe you reduced digital noise. Maybe you took care of your body. Maybe you released a toxic relationship. Maybe you forgave. This is important because it shows you that inner blessings are not accidental. They can be cultivated. And if they can be cultivated, you are not powerless. You can create the conditions for peace. Now let us also speak about compassion and karmic unfolding. One of the strongest indicators of deep karmic change is how you treat yourself when you fail. Many people practice kindness in public but punish themselves privately. They speak to themselves with cruelty. They call it discipline. But cruelty creates suffering. It creates fear. It creates avoidance. It creates shame. And shame is heavy karma. When you begin speaking to yourself with compassion, you are unburdening heavy karmic patterns. Compassion does not mean you excuse harmful behavior. Compassion means you acknowledge the pain under the behavior and choose a wiser response. When you fail and you say, "I can learn from this," that is a blessing. When you disappoint yourself and you say, "I will repair and continue," that is a blessing. When you feel ashamed and you say, "I am still worthy of love," that is a blessing. This compassion transforms your inner landscape. It makes you more stable. It makes you more courageous. It makes you more willing to try again. This is why loving kindness meditation is such a powerful tool. Use it quietly and repeat simple phrases. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free from suffering. May I live with ease. Over time, this practice softens self-hatred. It loosens fear. It builds inner refuge. And when inner refuge grows, you cling less to external guarantees. You stop demanding that the world prove your worth. That is freedom. Now, because this video is about identifying inner shifts as true blessings unfold, I want to guide you through a simple inner scan you can do right now. Silently. In your own mind, think about your life 1 year ago. What was one emotional pattern that controlled you more than it controls you now? It might be anger. It might be anxiety. It might be people-pleasing. It might be shame. It might be envy. It might be the need to be right. It might be the fear of being alone. Now ask yourself, how has it shifted? Even slightly. Do you recover faster? Do you catch it sooner? Do you speak more gently? Do you forgive more easily? Do you set better boundaries? Do you rest with less guilt? Do you compare less? Do you trust more? If you can name even one shift, you are witnessing a blessing. Because that shift is not guaranteed. That shift is the fruit of lived experience and practice. That shift is karma transforming. Now let us talk about a delicate point that often confuses people. Sometimes inner blessings appear at the same time as outer hardship. You might be going through a difficult season externally. Financial pressure, health challenges, relationship stress, family conflict, loss, uncertainty. And yet, internally, you might be more stable than you ever were before. You might be less reactive. You might be more compassionate. You might be clearer. You might be more grounded. That is a real blessing. And it is often the most meaningful one. Because it means you are not only surviving, you are awakening. In Buddhist practice, awakening is not merely a mystical event. It is the gradual reduction of ignorance and the gradual increase of wisdom. It is the loosening of clinging. It is the strengthening of compassion. It is the ability to see clearly and respond skillfully. So if you are in hardship and you still have moments of peace, that peace is not denial. It is proof of inner wealth. It is a sign you are cultivating something real. Now, I want to bring in the idea of the creative ego and external validation again, because it is deeply connected to how we interpret blessings. Many people do not feel blessed unless someone sees it, unless someone confirms it, unless it is visible on the outside. This is a craving for recognition, and it is common. But the most profound shifts often happen in silence. They happen when no one is watching. They happen in the moment you choose patience instead of cruelty. They happen in the moment you choose truth instead of manipulation. They happen in the moment you breathe instead of explode. They happen when you forgive in your own heart. They happen when you stop abandoning yourself. No one may applaud that. No one may even know. But that is where your destiny changes. Because destiny is not only the events that happen to you. Destiny is the kind of person you become in response to events. And who you become shapes everything that comes next. Now let me tell you one more story. Because I want you to feel this in a human way. I will call her Priya. Priya spent years chasing visible blessings. She wanted a certain lifestyle. She wanted to prove herself. She wanted a relationship that looked perfect. She wanted to feel chosen. She wanted the kind of success that made people jealous. She got close. Sometimes she touched it. Sometimes she lost it. But even when she had it, she was not at peace. She was always anxious that it would disappear. She was always comparing herself to someone else. She was always trying to maintain an image. Then life gave her something that looked like the opposite of a blessing. A sudden loss. A relationship ended. A career shift. A period of uncertainty. Her image cracked. At first she felt humiliated. Then she felt empty. Then she felt tired of performing. In that tiredness, something honest emerged. She realized she did not know who she was without external approval. So she began practicing mindfulness, journaling, loving kindness, simple routines, walking without distraction, listening to her own thoughts, noticing her own pattern. At first it was uncomfortable. Then it was relieving. She began to notice inner shifts. She stopped chasing people who could not meet her. She stopped saying yes to protect her image. She began to sleep better. She felt less envy. She laughed more easily. She began creating art again, not for attention, but because it made her feel alive. She began to feel contentment in ordinary moments. And then, without forcing, her external life began to align. She attracted healthier friendships. She made clearer career choices. She found new opportunities that fit her values. But the biggest change was this. Even when external things fluctuated, she remained steadier. She was no longer addicted to being seen. She was becoming free. That is beyond karma in the shallow sense. That is karma understood as inner transformation. That is blessing. Now let us land this with a practical commitment. Because understanding without practice does not change the heart. For the next 7 days, I want you to track inner blessings. Each evening, take 2 minutes. Ask yourself, where did I experience a subtle shift today? Maybe you were less angry. Maybe you paused before reacting. Maybe you felt compassion for someone difficult. Maybe you noticed beauty. Maybe you needed less validation. Maybe you let go of an outcome. Maybe you felt more peace in your body. Write it down. 1 line is enough. Then ask yourself, what conditions supported that shift? Maybe it was sleep. Maybe it was mindfulness. Maybe it was a boundary. Maybe it was kindness toward yourself. Maybe it was choosing not to scroll. Maybe it was a conversation. This second question is important because it teaches you how to cultivate the conditions for inner wealth. After 7 days, read what you wrote. You will likely see something surprising. You are changing more than you thought. The blessings are unfolding more than you noticed. Your karmic field is shifting. And once you see it, you will trust the path more. Not because you are guaranteed external rewards, but because you are cultivating the one treasure that cannot be taken away. A wiser mind, a kinder heart, a freer spirit. Now I want to close with a thought that can carry you through any season. If you chase blessings only as objects, you will always be anxious. Objects come and go. If you recognize blessings as inner shifts, you will always have access to wealth. Because your mind can be trained, your heart can be softened, your awareness can deepen, and every step in that direction reduces suffering. That is the ultimate blessing. Continuous inner transformation. Awakening that unfolds through ordinary life. Now I want to hear from you. In the comments, share one subtle inner shift you have noticed in yourself recently. Something that might look small to others but feels meaningful to you. And if you tried the 7-day inner blessing practice, come back and tell me what changed in your awareness. If you want more long-form teachings like this, subscribe to the channel. Like the video so it reaches the people who are tired of chasing external proof of worth. And if you want to support this work in a deeper way, consider becoming a member so we can keep creating content that brings ancient wisdom into modern life with clarity and compassion. Take one slow breath before you go. Feel your body. Feel the present moment. If your mind is a little softer than it used to be, if your heart is a little kinder, if you cling a little less, then blessings are already unfolding. Not as a prize you earned, but as a freedom you are becoming.
There comes a time when you realize you want something that belongs just to you, something that brings comfort and keeps you connected to your inner world. Wall-crafted bracelet does exactly that. Quietly, softly, and consistently. If you felt drawn to any bracelet in this video, you'll find the purchase link in the video description and many more auctions in the channel storefront. Because sometimes the smallest item can bring the biggest sense of peace.